Okay, let me start. I thought I will discuss the uh, noise and interference right now, but there is only one small topic left, which I will be covering first. Then we'll go for the noise and interference because it's an important thing. So this is called the conductivity measurement. As I told, this is not the thermal conductivity, but the really it is an electrical conductivity. And we know that conductivity is often denoted as K is the 1 by resistivity. So often we require to measure the conductivity of a liquid by basically you can easily understand by measuring the resistance between the area. And what are the uses of conductivity measurement? One is important thing, pollution monitoring. Pollution monitoring means, okay, you are uh, the basically it's a if it studies the effectiveness of the water treatment plant, because there are several plants, industries and etc there, and where you put some acid, some alkali and all the things there. But what we want is that when you uh, when you discharge the affluents there, I mean the water there to the river or some pond or like this there, it does not carry any, the water is not, should not be acidic or alkaline or like this. And also the ions present there or metal ions or other types of salts present there should also be minimum there. This can be basically can be ensured by measuring the conductivity of this one, of the liquid, by measuring the conductivity of the liquid. Sometimes we also require to measure very concentrated concentration of the highly concentrated acid, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, or like this. There also we may have to measure, may have to use this conductivity probe for this measurement here. So you can easily understand that this conductivity probe is useful, very useful, but this pollution monitoring or also maybe some the concentration of salt in a, or concentration of salt, measurement of concentration of salt in a liquid. Okay, what is, and also some acids. Acids also sometimes they have it. So a lot of uses are there to monitor the quality of water, and particularly most of our pollution source is water there. And two important of them are pH measurement and conductivity measurement. So if pH and conductivity are both within our limit, then definitely we can say to great confidence that okay, the water quality is good there. Okay, so I think so we can say this one, that how to measure the conductivity. We can easily understand that we measure the resistance only there. So if we look into it, that R is equal to rho L by A. So what we can say, it is 1 by K. What we have it, this is a, say suppose any approximate wavelength is there, we call it L by A. But what we can say is that this L by A is a constant. This L by A is a constant, and this is called C. So what we call it, this basically K is the conductivity, and rho is, as I told, rho is equal to 1 by K. So naturally K is the conductivity, and C is what we call it, C is cell constant. That means we put a beaker and we put two wires or two lead wires in between, or like this, take it like this, and definitely the size of the beaker, the length of where it is dipped, and etc., the geometry, this will be deciding the cell constant, and rather, so resistance measured and actually the conductivity liquid of the liquid is inversely proportional there. Okay. And what we do is that the geometry, the cell is designed such that the resistance is within 10 ohm to 10 to the power 4 ohm. Because we know this 10 ohm to 10 to the power 4 ohm, we can say it's a medium resistance, and medium resistance measurement is always easy, and etc. there. And by the way, you can say that conductivity of tap water is equal to 200 microsiemens per centimeter. So Siemens is 1 by ohm, and conductivity of distilled water is equal to approximately 5 microsiemens per centimeter. So this is the range what we require, distilled water and this one, the conductivity, and obviously for it could be for tap water, for more polluted and having more salty air there, it could be conductivity much higher. But what we want is that number one, the cell means nothing but this, we call it a cell. We'll see it further, some more type of cells like this, some sort of beaker, some sort of container. Its geometry should be such that these two, where the resistance between these two falls in the range of 10 ohm to 10 to the power 4 ohm, so that we can easy to measure because they fall in the category of medium resistance. And sometimes electrode we have it, one is this way, the beaker, we take some water or like this, but often the flowing liquid, we want to measure the, going into a pipeline, you need to continuously monitor the conductivity. Sometimes we tap some amount of water, keep it here separately, and then measure it. That's offline measurement. But in online measurement, what it is, that okay, it is flowing to a pipeline, and we measure the conductivity and do the things there. But also it needs to be ensured that while you measure, it does not provide any obstruction to the flow path. So normal way for that one is called the flush mounted probe. What is it? Flush mounted probe. It is something like this. So basically, a cross section of a tube or a pipe, I am showing it like this here. Inside, so basically, inside wall is something like this. Okay. So here what we do is that we place three wires in this manner. That means they are called flush mounted in the sense that they are mounted on the wall of the pipeline there. Okay. And these two are connected, and this is one terminal and this is one terminal. So what we can say is that there is a this is called a flush mounted electrode. These are wires. So these are the measuring probes of this one, and it measures the liquid flows over here and it measures the resistance there. But but the advantage is that here there is no obstruction to the flow path because it is on the pipeline there. There are many other constructions, ways of constructing this conductivity probe and like this there, which I will not go further like this. But what we want is that the measuring scheme. You see, the measuring scheme, if we look at it, you are going to measure it, resistance. So what excitation should we give? What excitation should we give? We can, so basically, we think that, okay, we can give some DC excitation and measure the voltage drop across it. When we can measure it, volt ampere method or Wheatstone's bridge or like this there. But really, can we do it? We cannot use DC because why it is? If we apply a DC voltage here, there would be polarization, which I have already explained in a detail while we discussed about the electromagnetic flow meter. So the polarization means if we pass some DC current there would be some electrolysis flowing on this one, and that will result in some gas accumulations around the surface. It will be actually obstructing the current flow path, and as a result, the resistance will increase, and so it will not be an accurate one. What is the alternative? What we do is that AC excitation, which will be, if we give AC excitation, then what would be that, okay, the AC excitation we can give, but that will avoid the polarization because it will not, the ions will be always moving in two different directions, and as a result, it will not be able to release the charge, and this sort of creations of bubbles will be avoided that way. But in AC excitation, there is always a problem that, okay, there is a resistance here, but in this liquid, as we have already told, that water is a poorly conducting liquid or weakly conducting liquid. At the same time, it is also a dielectric. And here it is epsilon R of water is around 80. It is around 80 like this there. So that is a big issue there, because if we try to model this one, you cannot have it simply a resistance, but it is a capacitance forming between this one. So it's a resistance parallel with a capacitance. That will be a EADR. So naturally, if we want measure the impedance across these two, then what will happen? This will be due to both the resistance as well as the capacitance part of it. So while you do the things there, so naturally you will have to carefully measure it and thus either choose the frequency such that effect of capacitance is low, or or you make some sort of extra measuring circuit so that it takes the in phase component of the output voltage there. So basically, if we look at it, in fact, the equivalent circuit actually I don't want to give this one. So it is not only this is a R water or here it is C water, I can say it, these things there. But there would be some additional what is called a on the electrode surface, there would be some different circuit or equivalent circuit if we properly represent it. They call it, one is a CDL and one is called RCT. I am giving the simplest type of equivalent circuit. There are much more here there. CDL is known as double layer capacitance. Because there would not be exactly the charge transfer or bubble accumulation, but there would be always some sort of insulations or like this there, which will try to obstruct the flow of electron. There is called a double layer capacitance, which will be for if we go into these areas, you will be able to study, and it's very difficult to uh, estimate what is the CDL there. And another is what we call it RCT, that is a charge transfer resistance. At each electrode. So these are the two terminals, A and B. This equivalent circuit, if we look at it, of course, I am telling you, it's very simplified equivalent circuit. Actual one is much more difficult. This is a double layer at the electrode surface, there will be double layer capacitance and the charge transfer resistance. And this is your solution, that is a resistance and the capacitance of this one. And these are the things here. So naturally, we can see we are only going to measure the short W. So that will give us the conductivity. So naturally, you will have to choose the frequency and the calibration and all the things. The effects of this, all the other things has to be carefully considered. So though it looks like we measured simply the resistance, but actually it is a few more things are there, which I am not discussing that one. Okay? Then I come back to the issue. So conductivity issue I am skipping further because there, but we will go for the important of the noise and interference. So, noise and interference. As we have already told that there could be many the signal could be ways the signal could be corrupted, because as the signal becomes lower and lower in magnitude, one of them is that while you do use a electronic circuits, so what we can say is that in electronic circuits there is always some noise present, inherent inbuilt noise present in the semiconductor circuit or resistance, and they are having some random fluctuations of this one there. That will be always there. Apart from that, you will find in a digital circuits, there is always some very big high spikes when a switch gate is on or off like this. Often that also creates some problem. Another thing is also there, which we call the interference. Interference may be the signal interference, may be the effect of other sources which are unwanted sources, which we are nearby. We cannot avoid it, but they are creating a big havoc like this. So I will start with the interference. I will start with an example there. Say suppose we have a sensor and we have a readout or measuring circuit. Okay. So, two wires are there. This is your sensor, and I can say that suppose the sensor is generating some DC voltage, and say this DC voltage magnitude is 10 millivolt. 10 millivolt is a good enough, we can amplify and do the thing. So, the amplifiers and the measuring circuits are there. So, Rm I can call it, say suppose this is a Rm, I can call it the input resistance of the measuring circuit. And this one Ri, I can call it, it is the internal resistance of the area. Okay. So, I just for the sake of simplicity, I take an example. Say suppose the voltage is E0 is equal to 10 millivolt DC, Ri is equal to 2 megohm. I am just, and Rm is equal to 2 megohm. We may think of, okay, here. So we have seen that Ri could be far more, and Rm is 2 megohm is standard. Any electronic circuits will have some 2 megohm or above measuring resistance there. Okay. Now, so apparently what we can say that at this end, say suppose I make it 1 point grounded, and at this end this is a point. So in that case, ideally VA is equal to, what is this? This will be equally divided into this one. It's 5 millivolt DC. Doesn't matter the 5 millivolt DC, I can amplify it and do the things nicely there. Now, you take into the consideration of a power line nearby. Maybe, as I have told that there is always some power line, 220 volt. So here it is 220 volt, 50 hertz AC. Okay. This is a power line nearby. It is 220 volt, 50 hertz AC. This is always everywhere it is there, and there is nothing, you cannot avoid it, and it should not be there, because maybe our measuring circuit draws power from this there for putting on the amplifiers and all other things there, in meters and etc. So, but since this is a wire, I consider there to be open and exposed wire there. But this, since it is nearby, there would be some capacitance which we call it, say suppose C, that is equal to 10 picofarad. As I told, the always I am standing, and between the board and me there is always a capacitance of 10 picofarad or 100 picofarad. I am taking moderate value, even the 10 picofarad value there. Okay. So, if we look at it, so the question is that, so this is, we can call it a power line source, it is 50 hertz, or we can say it's an interfering input. It is interfering this one. But what is the level of interference, we don't know. But apparently it looks okay. It's a far off one. So, I mean, not that one, the capacitance is very small. I am connecting it with lead wires or like this. It should not affect the thing. But if we know the DC part, we have that one there. For the AC part, what we can say that this will be giving some sort of 220 volt, 50 hertz, and then it is a capacitance, and there is a load. And basically, if we look into this load from the using the superposition, this 2 megohm and 2 megohm parallel here, it is 1 megohm. Just you are applying superposition. So the AC part here it is there. And what is XC? XC is equal to 1 by 2 pi into 50 hertz into, what is it? 10 picofarad. Okay. If it is, what we can say, it is so it is 100 into pi, that means 314 into 10. So here it is 3140, here it is 10 to the power 12. Or we can say it is equal to 3.18 into 10 to the power 8 ohm. Okay. So Xc is equal to 3.18 into 10 to the power 8 ohm. And what is your voltage? Here it is grounded, and this is VA dashed, I will call it. That is, at the point A, what is the voltage? VA dashed. So what is your VA dashed? It will be 1 megohm, that means 10 to the power 6, divided by, here it is 318 square plus of 1 square, and here I put 10 to the power 6 there, into, that is 220 volt there. So what it comes to be is equal to 220 divided by approximately, I can say it is 318. So if it is 380 is equal to, we have it 691.3 millivolt. Approximately half a millivolt or more than that, this is a voltage. So, what the measuring circuit, say suppose we are connecting a CRO to see the waveform. What will be the measuring circuit? It will see a 5 millivolt DC. It will see a 5 millivolt DC, maybe this one, superimposed by 691 millivolt AC. So naturally it will be like this. So the point is that what you will see, what you will measure, you will measure this one, only the AC there. The AC voltage will be, the interference of the power line will be totally overshadow the signal. So naturally, we will not be able to measure any signal there. We will not be able to see any signal at all. What is there? Only interference or noise there. So this is looks to be very practical case. Always you have it whenever you do it in your laboratory or like this. This sort of power lines are coming. There are power A there. These are the major issue in it. That means sometimes whenever very innocent A there, but this sort of, if you do not care, you do not give proper attention. The thing is that you may think that, okay, no signal is coming. But it is, or may this AC as the signal, but it is totally giving you a wrong result. So often, once you do the carry out experiments and do the things there, you should always check, and rather I will say, you should always double check. Are we getting the correct signal or not? What you are expected to see. Otherwise, you see, okay, I am getting like this. Often you will see that in a CRO, if we keep the two leads open, the CRO, there is a 50 hertz pickup. Where it is coming from? Because of the capacitance interference. So naturally, you must be very careful about this one. So there are many things there, but I am saying that this is one of the simple example which shows that how devastating may be their whole measurement system, it may be there with a simple example. So before we see that what type of interference, so this is one type of interference, we call it a capacitive interference, but there are quite a few types of them, and we should also see what are the precautions, what are the protections we need to do that one. That will be coming one by one, but before that, let us look into a few aspects there. So number one is that this major issue is definitely the resistances are very small, almost zero or like this, that the voltage here is small, 5 millivolt. Another is, this one is 220 millivolt. There is a huge gap of this one, and often we find a high voltage line with spikes and etc. going there, and that will cause you in a laboratory or any other things you will do. Another A is also there. If suppose this Ri, one way is that to look into this one. So suppose I make this Ri for other sensor, it is say 10 ohm. What will be the effect? Can you tell me? Instead of 2 mega ohm, it will be 10 ohm. The source of it, everything remains constant. What will be the effect? Can you tell me? Just a rough calculation there, nothing. No calculation needed, estimation. Anybody? Yeah,
So
Saurabh?
first
The
thing is
DC
that
voltage.
Huh? Saurabh?
So DC voltage at VA will increase because
Huh?
like almost it would be almost 10 millivolt at
10
VA.
minutes. But for AC? For
Sir,
AC?
for AC, the impedance both the resistance will come in parallel, so it will be like almost 10 ohm only.
10 ohm.
So
So naturally you can see this will be for AC, it will be provided almost a ground one. So naturally that will not cause you much trouble. That's why what we'll see is that thermocouples have got an internal resistance of small resistance like this. It's only 2 watts, 5 ohm, 10 ohm or one like this. They don't require special because whatever may be the effect of capacitance here, it would be almost negligible there. This is the major problem here is that Ri, if it is high, then would be the trouble will be more. Because otherwise, in terms of the AC circuit, it will look like this value will be almost this voltage 0. And I just say only the DC part only there. But if the internal resistance of the circuit or the sensor is high, then only the trouble comes. So we will find that most problems are there will, particularly on the sensing point of it, piezoelectric crystals, which has also very high output impedance, pH sensor, and like this there. But we need to see this one. If it is a thermocouple or any other type source where it has got or some inbuilt amplifier or like which output impedance is low, that will not affect much there. Is it clear?
sir, if we are expecting a DC output, then why can't we use a low pass filter to avoid AC signals?
We do the low pass filter, do the things there, but you see, often if we expect a DCA there could be a low pass filter, but sometimes there could be a AC voltage also. Sometimes there could be some AC voltage, and that's why reason because electromagnetic flow meter and etc. we told. That is the reason here there we don't use 50 hertz there. But you are correct, that is one way of this one. You use to block the 50 hertz interference. Any circuit, you need to see that one. That is one way, of course, but it is always not possible, which we will see afterwards also, taking out the 50 hertz signal here. Because the A is itself, say suppose the signal may be also very close to 50 hertz or in the bandwidth of 50 hertz or like this there. That is there. So what I would say that this interference is a major issue and it needs to be taken proper care. But only thing is that the type of interference which we are saying it's sheer capacitance, but it could be many others also. So what we can say is that so this one we can say this is your sensor signal conditioning and here there is some interfering source. This interfering source can affect this one, it can affect the waves, it can affect this signal conditioning also. So we'll see afterwards, there are many ways we can avoid these things here. So we should always, while we design the circuit, we should always see that whether sufficient care has been given for doing that thing. So the type of interference what we can say, it is basically coupling. That means here this interfering source, it transfers some energy to the different area. So this is a coupling mechanism, we can say, or rather type of interference or the coupling mechanism. Maybe one is resistive, okay? Maybe through some resistance, we have seen it that coupling is through capacitance. It could be through some resistance. We'll see the example there. Next is inductive. Third one is capacitive. And the fourth one is electromagnetic. This resistive is normally rather, I will say not resistive, I will put it conductive, it is a more appropriate one. Here it could be DC to say 50 hertz or like this, they are low frequency mostly. Inductive may be, oh exactly, I have forgotten the value there. But this electromagnetic is basically more than 20 megahertz. So if we have a nearby source which is switching very fast, that will also radiate. So these are directly in resistive, inductive and capacitive coupling. But this electromagnetic is that if there is some fast switching occurring like this there, and there would be some coupling there. You must have noticed also sometimes, of course, nowadays they have got better mechanism for removing that interference or like this, that if your scooty or some car goes beside your house or like this, and your house is just beside your road, sometimes your instruments like TV or radio gives you some interference, takes up some interference. This is one example there. Now let us try to see what is the A there and what are the conducting A there. The conducting one could be of two types. So one is called improper grounding. Another is ground loop interference. So, conducting type 1, as I told, these are all very simple, nothing there, but often we ignore these issues, and often what we do is that we make big mistakes, and that causes a big interference there. Say, what is improper grounding? what we have is that suppose there is a, of course I know that you are not that much familiar with your experiments, but you can, I understand that. But these are the things, if you do the experiments, we will always find, do the, we will be able to understand that what are the mistakes. Everybody does it like this. So this is your power supply. Say suppose it gives you the 5-volt supply there. And we have got several modules, several circuits. We have made some big circuits which consist of several modules like this, the PCB there. Okay. Say suppose this one draws this, actually this is connected to the power supply like this here. So this one draws, say, suppose a small current, 100 microampere. This one is a little bit, second module A and module B takes a little bit more current, it is 10 milliampere. This one module C, say suppose takes a little bit more current, that it is 100 milliampere. So what we can do is that normally it will be drawing current like this. I need to do a return path. So they are all connected together. What we can do it is that, what is a normal area, that I use 6-inch wire, conducting wire, and this 6 inches, so cut the wires, because often we always look for saving the wire or like this. So what we can do is that use a 6-inch wire, and its resistance, it is a 6-inch wire. And again from this point I connect another 6-inch wire. And here another 6-inch wire. So you may be very satisfied that, okay, I have saved the cost of wire, because wire is costly or like this here. But this wire's resistance is approximately 3.2 milliohm. Okay, 3.2 milliohm, what it is nothing there. But, okay, this is a 100 milliampere current, this is going to be 110 milliampere current, and this is again 110 plus 100 microampere current going. So even though this 3.2 milliohm, here 3.2 milliohm and here 3.2 milliohm, they are there connected in series. So very small current it is like this. But if you look at it, you will get these voltages are, if we calculate and do the things there, because it is 100 microampere current and like this voltage will be 352 microvolt. This voltage will be 704 microvolt. This voltage will be 1.02 millivolt. So you see, this is a ground return path. This point, this is a ground terminal which is supposed to be connected to ground here. This point is also supposed to be connected to ground here. But we see this is not this is 0 volt, but this is not a ground there. And what will happen is that there will be a 1 millivolt signal or like this. Even this point, which carries a very low signal, that is also 352 microvolt, which may be sufficient. Actually, we are considering that is to be 0 there. There is the 0 volt is got shifted to 352 microvolt, which is definitely will cause you problem if the voltage level is very small there. Even what we will find if it is a digital circuit, so often this part 100 milliampere current, it is some display or like this there. If there is a digital circuit, there would be always some current spikes here. This current spikes will be causing more difficulty like this, because there would be a spike in voltage of this. So this point may be culprit, but we will find that ground level there is always some spike, and that is shifting the ground level. And you know that all the voltages we measure, these are all basically with respect to ground. So we are assuming that they are in this 0 volt level. So naturally, we will see that because you wanted to save somewhere, you did something which may be mistake, which may be in long term affecting in a great way in measurement. But you may ask, what is the way out? I would say, don't connect in this manner. Let it be a little bit costly. You connect all the, that is called the multiple grounding or like this. You connect. Take 3 wires. So here it may be 3.2 milliohm. Here it may be 6.4 milliohm. And here it may be 9.6 milliohm. You will find that these voltages is almost equal to the 0 voltage. This voltage, you please calculate, you will find it. Here it is 10 milliampere. So this is 6.4 into 10 to the power minus 3. And here it is 10 into 10 to the power minus 3. So it is 64. This point would be, 0 volt, and here it would be approximately 64 microvolt. So, and this will be, this is a current drawing one, but this one, current flowing through this one, is not at all affecting the other two circuits there. So, this is a very common mistake we do it while doing that one. That is called a ground, improper grounding. And this is not only for your connecting PCBs or like this there and wearing or like this. While you design an IC, you need to take the power supply and ground and lines throughout there. There also you need to take care how much is the source drawing that, how much that unit is drawing the current. If it is more, there should be a separate ground there. And you will find that analog and digital ground must be different. We will see, if often we have a mixed signal ICs and etc., where it is both analog and digital one. This analog and digital signal grounds must be different, connected at one point at the end of it like this, because digital signal is very noisy, and if we connect some analog signal line with it, this will also, the ground will be also becoming very noisy, and as a result we will not be able to hear there. So these are the things which has to be practiced if you are interested to become a practicing engineer, a designer, or like this there. So hardly any book will discuss all the things, but these are the things are those who from experience. Definitely, I am do it in their own hand. They can give you to much more. But I only can say that you must take care of this sort of things if you really are interested, if you wanted to have a good design of it like this. So that is what I wanted to say today. Okay.
Sir, I could not understand how exactly the improper grounding is affecting the circuit.
Okay. The thing is that it is always what we do is that we take out, say, suppose an op amp. I just took it like this. You want to amplify it. So the thing is that I just take one example. These are all whatever this output voltage is all with respect to the ground, and this ground we consider it to be 0 volt. Okay. But if this ground itself, I have shown it earlier case, I think it was this voltage was some microvolt or millivolt. Say suppose it is 1 millivolt. So this ground voltage is 1 millivolt shifted, and this will be there. So output, by measuring this voltage, I will think that this is ground, but if we, so naturally what will happen there, voltage will be dropping, or maybe in other way it may increase there. But so naturally, these voltages, all the grounds must be at the solid ground. That means exactly at 0 voltage there. And we will see even this one, if we put your voltmeter to a plug or like this, the 3 points of your plug, you will find that often this is not, this 230, another should be 0 voltage with respect to the ground. It is even 5 or 6 volt there. If we connect to an instrument of that one, that will may cause the problem because of the improper grounding. Because all the things are with respect to the voltage of the ground, whatever we made. Say suppose this is 1.2 volt, and here it is, I say that this is, I will read it with other instrument, it is something different, but this voltage is, say suppose 0.2 volt or like this. So that will give you the error there. And apart from that, you see there in the earlier case, there is always there is a jump for, that was earlier case, if there was a spike current flowing there. So there would be this voltage will be always, there will be a spiky like this there, and that will cause you the spikes and etc. in whole measuring circuit. So the first and foremost important thing is that any measuring circuit or like this, ground must be solid ground, and ground must be always a constant